back. I'm Tedward, and today, thanks to Bond Group in Waltham, Massachusetts, we are driving the 2017 Aston Martin DB11. This one comes equipped with a 5.2-liter twin-turbocharged V12 that makes about 600 horsepower and a little over 500 pound-feet of torque, all driving the rear wheels. This car is the successor to the DB9, and now we've moved away from the V8 platform, which is why this car, like it or hate it, will go down in history for a few reasons. Number one, this is the first model year of the new platform. And number two, this is the first turbocharged production Aston Martin. So this 5.2-liter V12 is potent, it makes a ton of torque, and it doesn't require the revs to make it sing. It's ready to smoke the tires all the time. Now, unlike the Vantage, which later took on some of this design language, I think that this DB11 is absolutely stunning. I think the body lines are fantastic. The beautiful clamshell that we're going to open in a second really does the trick for the theatrics. But this car was also available as a V8 twin turbo, which used the AMG 4-liter. That's not the move. You got to go with the V12, and it's very easy to identify the V12s because there's extra vents in the hood, probably for cooling reasons, one would imagine. Gluing it to the road is a 255 section tire up front on a 20-inch wheel and a 295 in the rear, because remember, that's going to do all the work. And these Bridgestones are specially branded for Aston Martin, the S007. And this new platform utilized aerodynamics in a new way for Aston Martin, because this scoop right here is actually active. It comes down through here and then creates this aero blade. So a ram air effect through the side of the car actually creates like a air spoiler back here. This does come up at speed, but it's very trick stuff. And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. When we open this, you can see where those ducts come through. You can actually see all the way out through the front from back here, and that comes into this rear deck and out the top. Now, what's wild is the car has soft close trunk and a soft close clamshell, but not soft close doors. Let me show you under the hood. Now, this is a really beautiful engine bay. Any car show you go to, it's very cool to open this up. And kind of like a Viper, you get to see this front suspension with the double wishbones. The only problem with this design is that, as you'll notice, this gets very dirty. So if you're driving in any kind of inclement weather, it just sprays everything right up here and gets pretty dirty. But that's okay, because under here, we've got our 5.2-liter V12. This is an Aston Martin AMR engine, unlike the V8 version, which utilizes that 4-liter from Mercedes-Benz. These hinges are pretty outrageous. This is a lot to hold up, but it does a really good job of moving in one single piece, and then we drop it down, and it's soft close on both sides. Now, if you were to lose power, let's say your battery is dead, and this button does not work, there's actually little pull tabs here and on the passenger side, and that will release both sides of that hatch. In the cabin, we are littered with leather, and this is maybe one of my favorite headliners of all time. Aston Martin is never shy about decorating their interiors. I think they do a really good job of just making you feel like you're in a special place. When you pull this forward, there are rear seats, and you see your Bang & Olufsen subwoofer between, but I wouldn't really recommend putting anyone back there. To me, this is storage, because there's not going to be much legroom. So let's jump in, get it started up, and take it for a drive. To start our DB11, we have our key in our pocket, engine start stop button right up front and center, glowing red. See our Bang & Olufsen speakers rising up from the dashboard, just like we had on DB9. And some trick features inside. There is storage, but you've got to use this electronic retracting top to get in there. Now, for any of you who are worried about electrical issues in your Aston Martin, you may not want to keep anything terribly important in there. I'm just kidding. I've never seen one of those fail. The shape of this steering wheel is mostly round, but there's a bit of a squared off edge on the sides. And then we've got these lovely little switches here. And what I like about this car is that you can move into sport mode, sport plus mode, and that's going to open up that exhaust a little bit. Pretty raucous stuff. And you can adjust your suspension, your adaptive suspension, independent of that sport mode, which I love, because you might want that throttle response and transmission setting with the sport modes, but you may be still going over some ugly, bumpy roads. That tells me that this is a British car, because they have crummy roads just like we have here in New England. To put it in drive, pretty simple. We've got our button there, and away we go. At low speeds, especially when you're navigating a parking lot or something, these mirrors are fairly intrusive. It feels like on the passenger side especially, it just extends the blind spot from that A-pillar. So you get the feeling that they certainly put style ahead of function in a lot of respects. Let's see if we can ease into the throttle and put some power down. So while it has a claimed 0 to 60 of about 4 seconds, putting all that torque to the rear wheels on a 295 section tire proves pretty difficult from a standstill. But the car actually is fairly compliant. It allows you to drive over some bumpy roads with confidence. You don't feel like you're gonna crash it over some potholes, which is really nice. Now it's got a ZF 8-speed torque converter automatic, which makes the shifts nice and smooth. Now, in the before times of Aston Martin, we were using single clutch gearboxes that were not the most vibrant to drive as a comfortable Grand Tour. They were pretty aggressive, and you needed to kind of lift your foot, the gentleman's curl as they called it, I believe, in their manuals, between shifts to try to smooth them out. This ZF 8-speed, for any Aston Martin loyalist, must have felt like really entering the 21st century. Now, somehow Aston Martin gets lumped in as like a supercar, because it seems to be sort of an exotic brand and it has the cachet, but this is a Grand Tour, it's a GT car. And although it has a twin-turbo V12 with 600 horsepower, the point of that V12 is more like a Bentley than, let's say, a Ferrari. Yes, you can wind it out and go very, very, very fast, and it handles reasonably well. But to me, this car is for doing just this. It's for wafting along at fairly low revs and riding that torque. Handling-wise, it really does a reasonable job of being an agile, large GT car. I love the way it puts power down coming out of a corner. It's got this beautiful limited slip differential. It feels like that rear end just tightens up, and it's not as manic as the Vantage. Vantage just wants to send you off into a ditch all the time. If you breathe on that throttle, you're gone. This car allows you to feed that throttle nicely, and it rewards you with good throttle application, but it's not so finely tuned that you need to be careful. It still allows you to be a little ham-fisted and survive the corner. Cruising on the highway 70-ish miles an hour, you're only turning about 1,500 RPM in 8th gear. But because we're in sport mode, it's going to drop us down to probably 6th or 7th just to make sure that we have the revs to play. But there is still some, intrusive road noise. This is not going to give you that Bentley or Rolls-Royce experience because, after all, it is still a sports car. nothing in the car feels too sharp. The steering is weighted nicely. The ratio is lovely. The brakes don't give you some hyper-aggressive bite that send you and your passenger through the windscreen. Everything is designed to be smooth. And that's kind of like the vibe of driving this car. It is smooth. It doesn't feel like I'm supposed to go be some crazy animal in this thing. Although getting up to speed is never going to be an issue because you just have so much to work with. And that's what I like about it, is that this car is a little bit about excess. It's not about always using it. It's about knowing you've got it. And if you need to get out of Dodge with this engine, there is no question that you'll be able to. On some normal back roads, I think this car really shines at just being a tame, stylish, handsome machine. It has the capability to do some pretty outrageous things, but you don't always need to express that. This interior, I love a bright, fun, funky Aston Martin interior. So whether it's tan or bright green, like, you can do those things. And I think a lot of folks forget that Aston Martin offers that kind of thing. If you're gonna buy an Aston Martin, please don't get like a dark, boring black interior. You've got to do something, if not at least with the stitching. But we attribute all those types of cool interiors and paints to Porsche most of the time with their PTS and CCX options. I think that Aston Martin offers some of the coolest interiors. The only trouble is that when you've got those bright interiors, which I'm sure you're seeing off on camera, it reflects on the windscreen. So it is a little difficult to see sometimes. Now, the camera might be focusing on it more than my eyes. I'm barely noticing it as the driver. So you may comment and say, well, how do you even see out of this thing if I'm staring at the dashboard reflected in this mirror of a windscreen? That's true. It is, if I focus inward, I can see that. But while I'm driving, it's not really that cumbersome or something that I'm noticing. The tricky thing with this DB11 is just making these sharp turns and recognizing that that mirror on both sides is just blocking the view that you would really like to have to make sure there isn't a dog, pedestrian, or curb about to ruin your day. And while I do love the style of this thing, the idea of a convertible DB11 certainly speaks to me, because then you can hear that V12 with the roof down. And you also get some more stylish options because you can get a funky color for your roof if you're so bold. You tend to get the gentleman's nod pretty much everywhere you go. You pull into a gas station at an Aston Martin, people like it. It doesn't seem ostentatious, which is wild because it is sort of an ostentatious brand, but it has that handsome allure of 007 behind it that allows you to really blend in as a gentleman rather than as the attention-seeking red Ferrari owner. I like a car that requires a bit of finesse, a bit of common sense, because you cannot just floor this car. You cannot just put your foot to the ground and let it unwind. You need to think, because you are at a disadvantage when it comes to available grip. So while a lot of cars are becoming more and more idiot-proof with all-wheel drive, really trash controls that allow you to annihilate 0 to 60s in sometimes under 2 seconds in modern supercars, The DB11 is a driver's car. It's a GT car. It is not a supercar, but it has supercar attributes. So if you're somebody who loves a V12, if you're somebody who loves style, if you're somebody who wants to work for your speed a little bit while having a classy interior, this may be the move. And you're also in luck because, well, Aston Martins depreciate quite a lot. So if you didn't buy this new, you're probably in pretty good shape to go out and buy it now. So thank you so much to Bond Group for tossing the keys to this DB11. Thank you guys for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Thanks, of course, to the Patreon supporters who put a few extra bucks in the coffers for fuel and other things and keeping this channel going. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one. What are you bitching at?